We're asked here to find the inverse of a function, sketch it, and then find the intersection of the two graphs, the graph and the intersection. And remember, of course, the inverse will swap the x and the y's around. So let's do that to find our inverse function. So therefore, x will equal 1 over y plus 3. We'll subtract 3 from both sides. And then we'll invert both sides and we'll get y equals 1 over x minus 3. Or if we want to respond in the way the question's asked, the inverse function should actually be written as f minus 1 of x equals whatever the answer is. So 1 over x minus 3. So now we've got our inverse function, we can start doing the rest of the question. Oops, that wasn't very good. Let's try again. So let's do that. So now we can start sketching these two graphs. So let's rule up our axes here and have a look at each individual function. The first one is, let's do this one in orange, is y equals 1 over x plus 3. So for that one, we have a normal hyperbola that's been translated up 3 units. So I'm going to draw in my asymptote first of all, and then I'm going to draw that in, and it looks like that. Now, just to be precise about the situation, I'm going to make sure that I label my asymptote and that I label my function, f of x. The second function I'm going to do in blue, so let's put a big blue dot there so I know it's going to be in blue. And this is also a hyperbola, but it has been translated to the right 3 units. I know that because if x equals positive 3, my denominator is 0, and that's where the asymptote will be. I also know that when I have an inverse function, if I have an asymptote, say at y equals 3, my inverse will be at x equals 3, and so on. So I can draw that line in right now. There we have x equals 3. And now I can draw my hyperbola in there, and it's going to look something like that. And like this. So now this line here is f negative 1 of x. Now, I'm left with 2 points, and I'm going to highlight them in red. There's a dot here and a dot here. And that's where my two hyperbolae meet. It's also worth keeping in mind that because they're inverse functions, they meet on the line y equals x. And that's going to be really handy for us when we sort out the coordinates of the point of intersection. So we'll start here with another little flirt. The point of intersection is where f of x equals f to the negative 1 of x. And therefore, f of x being 1 over x plus 3 equals 1 over x minus 3. Now, rather than get lost in algebra land, I'm going to crack out the calculator and solve this. So I'm going to say, here's my main function, and let me get the keyboard out and be as accurate as I can. So I'm going to write this into the calculator exactly the way I see it on the page. So 1 over x all plus 3 will equal 1 over x minus 3. And now I'm going to highlight that interactive equation inequality and solve, and I'm going to solve that for x. And I get a number that makes me feel quite pleased that I didn't do the algebra all myself. So my x values will be 3 over 2 plus or minus root 13 over 2. So I'm going to write there x equals 3 over 2 plus or minus root 13 over 2. Now, the next piece of information comes back to this line. You remember I said that this might be useful to know that y equals x. What that means is at this point here, where there's an intersection, this is going to be the lower number, so 3 on 2 minus root 13 on 2. My x coordinate and my y coordinate are the same because they're on this line, and y must equal x. So I don't have to do any more calculations to work out what my coordinates are. I know this one is 3 minus root 13 over 2, and therefore my y is going to be exactly the same. I need to make sure that's long enough. And up here, I know that this point is going to be 3 plus root 13 over 2, and I'm going to go off the page here, but you're probably guessing I'm writing 3 minus root 13 over 2. And now I have the question fully answered. I've sketched both functions, I've even done them in colour for you, and I've found the points of intersection, and I've used the fact that I know y equals x to make the question a little bit shorter for me.
If you found this video helpful, please subscribe or like. Thanks.